Win a Pageant, episode 31. Congratulations to my clients Candace and Jolie for their recent pageant titles. This means I've got 2 spots open in my VIP coaching program. If you're serious about winning, email me at Alycia@winapageant.com to schedule an interview. Hi, winners, and welcome to part 4 of your pageant budget. I'm your coach, Alycia Darby, and I promise this will be the last of the parts of the pageant budget. I know it's huge, but I'm really trying to make it easier on you here. So far, we have discussed the required expenses to just enter a pageant, the expenses that you are expected to have or to do or to spend if you want to win, and what you're really looking at to spend for your wardrobe. Plus, in each of these episodes, I have given you some money-saving tips along the way. So if you want to follow along with the whole budget, you can download it from the show notes on the website at winapageant.com. In this episode, I really want to share with you some of the fluctuating expenses, the things that are optional for your competition and things that might kind of come up last minute, so what you can really expect. So I'm going to start with first the optional things. Now, these are going to be pretty much a no-brainer, but you have to include them in your budget. And this is traveling to the pageant itself. So it depends on geographically where it is. You might be competing in a local pageant in your area, so it might be a 20-minute drive, or you might be flying across the country to compete from, Maryland to California or something, okay? So you want to consider those things. So it depends on flight and gas. If you are flying, you will probably have to check bags. So depending on which airline you fly with, it might cost $20. It might cost $50. If you get lucky, it might be free for the first one or two. So those are some things that you definitely want to consider. The second is the accommodations at the pageant. Some pageants will afford the accommodations for the contestants themselves. So meaning the pageant handles the cost. It's a part of your entry fee. For other pageants, you will have to afford the cost yourself. What many contestants do is they will split, if they have to afford the cost themselves and they know that they are spending the night solo, like they know that they're the only one, it's very common for contestants to find other contestants that they can share a room with. So just be on the lookout for that. If that's you and you are feeling like maybe you want to ask someone, just know that it's very common. That's not something that people are going to be like, oh, she's crazy or whatever, Now, it's also possible that people will not want to split a room. So someone who has maybe been to the pageant before, or they know that it takes them forever to get ready, or they have certain things that are embarrassing that they just don't want to share and they don't want to have the, stress of a roommate during pageant week, then those might be some reasons. Other reasons would be if they have somebody joining them. So if they're going to be there the first 3 nights on their own, but then they're having somebody come in for the last 3 nights, a husband or a family member, a best friend or something, So those might be some reasons, but it's definitely a possibility. So if that's you, feel comfortable reaching out and don't be shocked if somebody else reaches out. On that note, if you are someone who would rather be alone and you can afford it, and in fact, if you invest in the Pageant Sponsor Success Formula, then I would recommend staying on your own because it will kind of clear your mind. You'll have the opportunity to spend time with the girls if you desire, and you can still hang out in each other's rooms at the end of the evening. You don't have to, just be roommates to spend time together. So that's just something to be aware of. Okay, then you have the option to buy a pageant DVD. So usually the pageant sells DVDs and photography. So throughout they'll either do throughout the week, they'll take pictures of activities and things that you're attending, and or they'll take photos of you on stage. Now, at these types of pageants, usually other recording devices are not allowed in the audience. So it might be your only opportunity to get access to these videos and things like that. So pageant DVDs usually start at $50. I've never seen one cheaper than $50. Pageant photography discs, the same. You could expect about $50. On the high end, I have seen the photograph disc, when you get just raw images of you candids throughout the week, could even cost upwards of $900. Okay. That to me seems like a little bit too steep, but I would budget about $500 if you wanted the pageant photographs. And the DVD, there were many years that I did not get a pageant DVD, and I'm kicking myself for it, And also, they aren't always recommended for, or they're not always gifted to the winner. So in many pageants, you would assume that they would give the winner the DVD and their photograph disc. I mean, that would be an easy offer, right, from the sponsors, but it isn't always the case. So I highly recommend go ahead and get the DVD, especially. You can always take captures of that, and it's such an amazing learning tool to go back and watch yourself do this over and over. And now, for me, 10 years later, I'm thinking, gosh, I wish I had like my very first pageant on DVD, even though I was like, who cares if I even win? And, like whatever kind of thing. I wasn't really all in, but I didn't know that I would catch the pageant bug and want to keep up with it. And then, here I am today, 10 years later, and had state titles and stuff like that. And looking back on it, and especially as a coach now, I'm thinking, gosh, I wish I had that. So it's worth the money. Some of them are $250 or something. I would guess that's about the average is around $200. So I would definitely budget that because it's just such an amazing keepsake. So now I want to jump into the miscellaneous costs. Now, these are miscellaneous. Some of them just pop up out of the clear blue sky and you're like, I got to get that. And others, they're not necessary for everybody. So the first one I would discuss is stones. So if you are adding stones to your wardrobe, many women add stones to their wardrobe because they're wanting it to look a little bit fancier, or they have a certain design in mind that they're looking for. These types of stones, they make really, cheap, chintzy stones that would be fine, but then they make really, really beautiful with extra cuts on them and stuff, so you've heard of probably Swarovski crystals. That's a type of stone that has lots of different cuts in it, so it kind of shines a lot more. It catches the light and throws it a lot easier. There's also Aurora Borealis crystals, which are A-B crystals. That's just the type of style it is. Those are the ones that when you look at them, they look like a rainbow. They've got blues and pinks and reds and yellow, and they kind of shine all different types. So depending on the type of stone you get that you want to add, you will likely either be gluing it on, or the stone itself will come with glue, and all you'll need to do is heat the stone. So they make equipment for both of these. You could either get the equipment that you put the glue on the back of it and then place the stone down. My preference was always to get the machine that just heats the stone, and then all you have to do is get the stones with glue. You put it into the machine. You put the shiny part from the outside, you put it on into the machine, and then you put the machine with the stone onto the garment, your wardrobe, and just hold it for a moment, and it heats up enough and then when you pull it away, the stone stays. It's so easy. It makes your life so much easier. If you're doing it professionally, it's going to cost a lot of money because it costs a lot of time. It takes a long time to add stones, but many, many girls do it, and it's absolutely worth it because at the end, when you stand back and you're like, wow, it can really create a really awesome image if you haven't purchased a dress with lots of stoning. So that's something to consider. Stones are not cheap. You typically buy them by the gross. So gross is 144 stones. You typically would buy them just like that. If you get them, of course, the more that you get, usually you can get them cheaper and cheaper. I would always get mine in the fashion district in downtown LA. So they sell it at wholesale prices, which I think is really exceptional. And then I bought my stone machine online. So you can find them for relatively inexpensive. I would guess maybe $50 or $100 or less. The next thing that you're going to need is a travel steamer. Now, the steamer that I use is called eSteam. And why I love it is because it's a handheld steamer, and it's not one of these kinds where you fill up a giant bucket and then you have a big string like a vacuum. It looks like a vacuum and pushes out steam. It's not that large. Mine is extremely small. It's plastic. It's 2 pieces. It is sort of like a water bottle. It screws on like a water bottle. It has the top that screws on, which is like a spout. That's where the steam comes out of. And then the cartridge that you're holding, like the end of a water bottle, is the area that you pour the water into. And you might have to unplug it and fill it up a little bit more if you're steaming your entire wardrobe at one time. But what I love about it is that you don't have to keep the water in. You just dump it out when you're done. I even still to this day travel with my e-steamer just because it's so easy. An iron is really going to be hard to steam all your wardrobe. It's going to be really hard to iron with an iron. Okay, so I would highly, highly recommend a steamer. The one I got was maybe, I don't know, less than $50 for sure. It's probably closer to like 30 or something. So eSteam, that's what I would look for. You'll also need a few little extras, which would be Foam inserts. So if you are inserting like into your bra area for your wardrobe, they make foam inserts of all different shapes and sizes. I would get mine for, I think they were, $5 or $10 at Joann Fabrics, and they're called foam mold cups. And I would sew them. I got the foam ones because I would sew them into my wardrobe so that I didn't have to worry about poking out of my wardrobe and things like that. And then my bust size was the same across all of my wardrobe. So I would stitch them in so they were perfect position. So I bought several of those. I would even buy like 4 or 5 pairs depending on how much wardrobe I had to wear and stitch them right into my wardrobe for stage. And then boom, I'd put it right on and everything would be in place. I found those to be way easier for me than the sticky boobs. You've heard a lot of the girls talk about the sticky boobs. They're like, $50 or something. You can get them at Walmart, or you can get them at Victoria's Secret or something. And they have like an adhesive that you actually tape to yourself. It sticks to your body. The problem with that is as you're sweating, that's peeling off. Not only is it peeling off your tan, but it's also like they're falling off of you, they're coming off. So that can be really dangerous for stage. You may, if you've seen enough pageants, you've probably seen that happen, and it's not a cute look. The other thing is Band-Aid Blister Block. Band-Aid Blister Block is like a tiny miniature deodorant, and it is like wax. It's not deodorant, it's like a wax formula. And you put it onto your feet in areas that you may get blisters. And the wax allows the shoe to slide over top, which it's going to slide anyway, but it protects the skin so that you don't get blisters. It's amazing. I think it's absolutely spectacular. And it's probably like $3 or something. You will also likely need, now these are the things you might not be thinking about. The first is touch-up makeup. So you'll likely have to bring a little bit of makeup with you. I would always, always, always recommend getting your makeup done for all phases of competition and maybe even for your rehearsal days if you have that opportunity. But you'll want to bring a few touch-ups. You'll want to bring like a powder or bronzer to touch up backstage. You'll want to bring your lip gloss or lipstick backstage. There's a few things like that you're going to want to have sharp and on point. You don't want to have loose lashes. If a lash falls off, you just want to have extras right there. So think about your touch-up makeup, what you need to bring. You'll also want to consider what do you need to do for your grooming prior to the pageant. So think about your hair dyes, probably body waxing, maybe of your legs or your bikini area or your armpits, your lip, anything. You want to just have it taken care of so it removes that stress during your time away. You also want to consider garment bags. So if you are carrying plastic garment bags, storing pageant material in plastic garment bags is going to make the color kind of turn like a moldy looking color. So you want to have a garment bag that is breathable. So a cloth garment bag. Now, a lot of the really high-end boutiques will give their bags in these types of garment bags, the ones that are breathable. So highly, highly recommended. What I do is pack all of my individual garments into the garment bags that are breathable. And then for travel, I put all of them inside one or, put several inside of one plastic so that I can carry the plastic, to and from. But then when I get to the hotel room, the plastic comes off immediately. So it's truly just to protect the garments from spilling, things like that. You'll also want to think about last-minute coaching. So many of my clients, when they arrive at the pageant, little things come up. So they need a mindset redirection. They're thinking about, oh, man, how do I say this again? Or can you remind me of that? Or they want to do a warm-up right before their interview. You want to always leave a little bit of that because it will really mess with your mindset. This has happened to me when I had amazing coaching and then finally it comes right down to it. And it's not that you're not prepared. It's highly likely that you are in fact prepared. But when you have someone like your coach to lean into, it just can radically change your experience. When you have a coach and they just speak life into you again in that moment of most need, that is just absolutely, it just relieves you so much and it relieves a lot of that pressure. So consider a coaching session, maybe even just a half an hour with my girls. Most of them, a half an hour is good. Sometimes we even do just 15 minutes right before their interview, and it's enough to get their mindset right. You also want to think about post-pageant expenses. So post-pageant dry cleaning, post-pageant thank you gifts, thank you cards. I always get my gifts and cards even before the pageant. Most of the cards I write out while I'm in rehearsal at the pageant. I just bring my cards with me because, you've got downtime and stuff. So it's simple for me. Plus, I'm on a high, I've got this really great experience. So I can start to write my thank you cards right then. And I write thank you cards for just about everybody under the sun. I want everybody to know how grateful I am. That's just an important value for me. And then when you come home, you're going to be sending thank you cards probably to your sponsors, or in gifts as well to your sponsors, to your director, to the director of the national pageant that you participated in. So these are a few of the miscellaneous things. Now, I really, really think it's important for you to take note of all of these things because they vary dramatically. Like some women dye their hair or do a deep condition right before the pageant. Well, that might cost $100 and something. That if your dye alone, for me in LA, the dye is about $175, and then a deep condition is about another $100. So that's an expense that I want to be mindful of prior to going to the pageant. Just garment bags alone could cost $15 each. Okay. So little things like that do in fact add up. All of this stuff could add up even without the additional wardrobe and stoning and things like that. It still could add up to probably $500, $1,000, something like that. So you really want to be mindful of working this into your budget in advance so that when it comes time to negotiate with your sponsors, you know where to put your priorities. Okay. So ladies, I really am excited about this budget series. And I know that budgeting isn't always the favorite thing to do. I know for me, it's absolutely not. Like I never wanted to think about this stuff. I was just like, let's see how it goes. But for the women that are wise about pageant competition, for those that are truly serious about competing, and especially if you plan on competing again, you want to be mindful of exactly how much you're spending because you want this to be worth your investment. Many of these things are considered simply a cost. Okay. So when you get foam inserts, that's a cost. Even much of your wardrobe is just a cost. That's not something that's going to be able to continue giving and giving and giving. A spray tan really only lasts a couple of weeks. So you want to think about investing where your money can come back to you. That's why, of course, I put so much value on coaching. That's why when I spend, I made a shift in my career where at some point I said, I'm sick of the pageant costing so much. I instead would like it to be an investment. So I said, I'm going to put more money into the investment side of pageantry, so the things that are actually going to pay off for me afterward. So for every dollar that I spent on a cost, so, stones and stuff like that, like the steamer, little things like that, I would spend 3 times as much on my education surrounding pageantry. And the education surrounding pageantry was everything from the coaching I received, mentoring, events I went to, workshops and stuff like that, any type of education, even attending events where others were at for networking purposes. So if you had to spend money to travel to an event or to engage in a different group or something like that costs as your investment because you're going to get stuff back out of that. So that's the mindset I would go in with this. I would think about, okay, how can I get the most out of this in the end? I want to put more of my money where the investment lies versus the cost. Because that, ladies, is how you win a pageant. And truly, it is how you win a pageant. It's less about the cost. So many women, it breaks my heart when they spend so much money on everything that it costs and they do not spend enough money on how they're actually going to improve at the end of the pageant, how this is going to take them to the next level. So may I just encourage you with all of my heart that please use it as an investment. Pageantry can just take you so, so far, but it's not about how much you spend. It's not about the cost that you put in. It's truly about the investment that you make. So ladies, I hope that this pageant budget gave you some insight on what to expect. And I really, really would encourage you to use the budget that I've given to you. It's in an easy Excel spreadsheet and it's at winapageant.com. So please join us there. Thanks so much for joining me, ladies. I'll see you next week. Hey there, I'm Alycia Darby, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching that last video. If you totally loved it and got something from it, would you just click subscribe right here to subscribe to our YouTube channel? Hey, I am here for you, and I've got so many more trainings and videos for you. In fact, this one would be a really great one to watch next. Or if that topic doesn't interest you, then try this one. It's my most recent video training. So I think both of these would be really great for you. Thank you again so much for subscribing. I am honored to be your coach. I'll see you again soon.